everyone, this is P4L. In today's P4L review, we'll actually be doing a detailed comparison between two iterations, or I guess two versions of Ironhide, well, I guess also Ratchet, the vanette mold. And we're going to be taking a look at the official Ironhide that we have here, MP-27, and the VooDoo Toys mold on the right, which is from the newcomer company VooDoo Toys. And people have asked a lot of questions about how these compare, my opinion, and so forth. So here it is. So we're going to go through robot mode first, and then we're going to go into alt mode a little bit later. So first and foremost, these are what the two guys look like. And I've done detailed reviews on both of them already. You can go ahead and click on the various links that I'll probably have floating around for each of them, that you can watch a detailed review on each of them as individuals as well as their transformations. But right now we're just going to be looking at comparisons. For me, robot mode is the most important mode of a transformer, mainly just because that's how I display my figures. I don't display them in all modes, typically, with the exception of Dinobots. And so the robot mode for me is the first and foremost thing I look at, and then I look at which one really speaks to the version of the character that I identify with, which is typically the cartoon for me. It might be the toy for you. So in this case, let's take a look at both figures. And both figures have their own merits. I've kind of gone through what I think each of them does well and does poorly in each of the individual reviews. But to kind of go over that, I'll say this. My overall opinion is that I think the look of MP Ironhide is very G1 cartoon accurate, but to a fault. It's overly accurate. Some of the things that they've done I don't think make a very aesthetically pleasing figure. The biggest problems I have are the slightly small head, and I think Ironhide should have a wider face. I think the actual look of the face is quite good, but I think the head and face should be a bit bigger and wider. The chest, the way it comes out kind of oddly, the fact that the bumper exists here, which is not actually accurate. The blue windshield, which I really don't like. I just don't understand that at all. I know some people love it. I just don't get it. It's just not realistic to the alt mode. And cartoon accurate is kind of a hazy gray area, because I don't think that they actually had blue windshields. I think it was kind of like, some people say maybe it was a reflection of the sky or something like that, but it's just very odd to think that they would actually have blue colored windshields. I hate the hip panels. I hate this whole midsection in general. The big diaper that they call it. I hate the look of how big it is proportionally. I think it is accurate to have this shape and the diamond form, but not to this size. Again, the cartoon is going to differ which episode to episode, and I also hate this part where it flips up. That just, it makes it look even more stupid, and then makes it have a weird shaped hip skirt. I don't know, it's just really weird. The legs, they go blocky for this character basically everywhere else, but then they go with these nice soft curves for the thighs, which make it look kind of feminine. I don't know why they did that. It just looks kind of weird. It looks like it doesn't belong on this particular figure. I would have preferred blocky to go along with these super blocky legs and feet. And this is another area where I'm like, they didn't do anything. They took some liberties up here at least, but they did nothing here really. With the exception of this section here, they really did nothing on the legs and just let them be giant rectangles basically. The feet also I don't love. I guess they are accurate, but I don't know. There's a lot that I don't like about this figure in terms of just pure aesthetics. On the back, he does have a clean back, which in general is pretty good, but he has, and I talked about this in my other review, he has a huge piece of his midsection just totally cut up. You have a gap here that you can see through. Lots of problems with this figure here. He has ass wheels, is what I've been calling them. I really dislike them. I guess, I mean, maybe he can mesmerize people with these spinning ass wheels as they check them out for too long. And then there's a lot of messy kibble in the inner part of the leg, which looks kind of weird. So they wanted to go with a big blocky leg, rectangular leg, but then they break that up themselves here. I think they could have done this better. I actually don't. This one piece here, I don't understand why they couldn't have done it better for this figure. The shoulders also look kind of odd. I talked about this in my review. They're not blocks. The way they are designed and how the transformation works, it breaks up the whole aesthetic of the shoulder being big, chunky cubes, basically. So now that I've already torn apart MP-27, let's go ahead and tear apart the things that I don't like about VooDoo Toys Animus. This is their stealth mode, TFCon exclusive. And this figure, it's definitely not perfect, but aesthetically, I prefer it. It does have a different styled crotch, which is smaller. When I call this a diaper, other people call this a Speedo, which I can definitely see. And it takes a lot of elements from not just the cartoon, but also the toy. So these hip skirts are actually reminiscent of the G1 toy, if you look at that. But the diamond in the middle is reminiscent of the G1 show. The legs here are all reminiscent of the stickers that you saw on the G1 toy, which I kind of like. I definitely prefer them more than the blocks, but I didn't appreciate it until I looked at the G1 toy and realized that the shapes and the lines were from that. So I like that. Things I don't like, or that other people don't like, are like the windshield feet. And it's not that noticeable here since it's black, but on Salus, he has black translucent windows here, and they contrast on the white feet. I don't mind that too much. On their Ironhide, it's probably going to be the same thing. Black windshield here, rear windshield here, against red, and that's going to stick out. That's definitely not show or toy accurate, but it doesn't really bother me that much. But I know it does bother a bunch of people. Other things that are bad about this figure is that the head doesn't peg in to the backpack, and the backpack doesn't peg in. It's held very securely on mine. I mean, unless I'm like jostling it on just the backpack itself, it holds just fine. But it is something that I think design-wise they should have pegged in for sure. The backpack is way bigger than on MP-27. But it's not so big that it bothers me. It does some cool things with the wheels. Instead of ass wheels, I guess he has back wheels that are a bit better hidden, in the sense that they're kind of front view, so they're much slimmer, and the way it's transformed is actually kind of cool. It does have this bumper that just kind of hangs out on the side. It does sit pretty compact, but it does look kind of odd. Another thing is the back here looks a little incomplete. It looks, it does have a little bit of gap here, which you can see through the side. It's actually quite similar to the gap that you see on Ironhide. They both have it kind of in the middle of their body from side view. Not a huge deal, since you're probably not going to be looking at it from the side on either of these figures, so I guess I can't really complain. It's kind of a wash there. But it looks like there should be maybe some additional rear skirts or something like that for this figure. I'm not really sure. You do have rear windows back here. I guess side windows from the rear of the car go here, and they don't tab in. They sit securely, so that never really bothered me. But you do have them here. Alternatively, the official has them on the arms. So again, kind of a wash there. As far as other things that I don't like or people don't like about this figure, the biggest thing I think that people complain about lately is the A stance. So you either have a straight stance with this mold, or you have, this is one ratchet click out. This doesn't bother me as much as it seems to bother other people. It's shoulder width apart, which is a pretty normal stance, I would say, but it definitely would be nice to have something in between. You can definitely force it in between the ratchets, and it holds just fine, as long as you don't jostle it too much. But it would definitely be nice to have another ratchet. Other people it bothers way more, but it's definitely something to point out. Some people don't like the head sculpt on this as much. I think it's fine. I don't really dislike it, but I think it could definitely look a little bit more Ironhide-ish. And I think really that's about it for my complaints on robot mode for this guy. I think he looks great. I think he has his as far as comparing the art posability, they're both really good. The A stance here bothers most people. This guy has friction joints, which make it a lot easier to pose in which way you want as far as the leg goes. As far as actual dynamic poses go, I think this guy is going to be a little bit more restricted. I don't think he has as much movement in the legs, if I recall. Oh, so they both have pretty poor back movement, and he has slightly better forward movement on the legs there. The shoulders, I think this guy has a weird joint here, so you have to actually kind of fake it if you want the arm to go straight up. If you ever wanted to, you'd have to flip the arm like this, which works. Not a big deal, I guess. This guy has ratchets in most places, an extra elbow joint. He can't swivel his fist all the way around, which is kind of weird. I don't know if he would really need to do that very often, but this guy can swivel all the way around. He has better hands. He has 3 molded fingers here, and then an individual pointer finger, and that's pinned at 2 different places, and a ball jointed thumb. So he wins kind of in the articulation in the hand. I think he has more waist articulation, and he has an ab crunch. And if you unpeg his front, he can even have more of an ab crunch. So as far as articulation goes, I think VooDoo Toys wins that battle. So the last thing I wanted to do is actual kind of physical comparisons. If you actually stand these guys up straight, I guess. Well, he can't actually stand straight because of some interference there. In terms of overall height, he is actually official MP-27 Ironhide is taller than VooDoo. And that actually bothers me because I actually thought he was slightly too tall, or I mean he might have been just right or slightly too tall. And I actually thought he might be smaller until I saw pictures. And that was a complaint a lot of people had about this toy that came out first, that he was too tall. But he's actually, the official is actually taller, so that doesn't seem like a very valid complaint anymore. One other thing that people complained about very early on, which I remember, is the number of exposed screws that he had from the back. And I remember this distinctly because I thought it was a really stupid complaint to have. But looking at it, I actually counted. He has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, I guess, screws or screw holes. And then Ironhide has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Oh, I guess this is not a screw hole. So 13. So he actually has more. People complained about the windows on the back here. He has windows on. So, I mean, I think it just goes to show that the fandom is really nitpicky about things that mean absolutely nothing. And they won't accept it for some cases, but then they accept it for the cases here. So, like, some people say that this guy has a perfect height when I believe he's too tall, and I believe he might be slightly too tall. And then people complain about screw holes when he has less screw holes. So it's so random. I just don't get the fandom sometimes. And I know I'm ranting, and it's not really about the figures. I'm just kind of frustrated with the community as of late, because when you read some of the forums, people complain about everything, and it just doesn't seem logical. So I just wanted to point out some of these illogical comparisons or complaints people have about one figure that they don't carry over to another figure. And vice versa. I'm sure there's some things that people complained about with this figure that's probably true of this figure as well. Anyway, and the last comparison, physical comparison I wanted to do was weight, because again, one of the big things people complained about with VooDoo toys is that they said this figure felt really light and cheap for the size. So I've already done this, but I'm doing this for the camera, I guess. I don't know if you can actually even see that. So you might not be able to see it. It says 7.1. Earlier it said 7.2. So 7 ounces, 7.1, 7.2 ounces. This one says 7.5 ounces, which is what I think that's what it said earlier. Yeah, so oh no, yeah, it keeps flickering between 7.4, 7.5. So to summarize, he's about 7.4 or 5 ounces, and he's 7.1 or 2. The difference is about 2.2 or 0.3 ounces, about a quarter in weight, like a physical quarter, not a quarter percentage wise, like a physical US quarter, 25-cent coin difference in weight. So again, I'm kind of complaining about, you know, people having misconceptions or saying things that aren't true. So people are complaining about this guy being too light for how big he is, but he's only 0.3 ounces lighter than the official one, who is actually taller than this one. So the fandom, I'm just saying, you know, before you just go off on the rails and complain about stuff like screw holes or weight or size, don't make assumptions about something that hasn't come out yet. So that's just my rant about random fans complaining about stuff that they know nothing about. Anyway, I guess the last thing before we go into alt mode comparison is to bring out the accessories. So this is a very easy comparison. He has a ton more accessories. So if you guys like these accessories and think they're cool, definitely the official ones out here. Some comparisons here are the weapons. I actually think this is kind of plain and could have definitely used some more line work or molded work. This one is actually a lot nicer, but I would have liked it if it was chromed out. They don't have any chrome on this guy. Oh, and neither of the figures have die cast. I know people have asked about that. Neither figure has die cast, which is why they probably weigh almost exactly the same. As far as the handguns go, I actually prefer the official handgun because it looks like the twin handguns that Ratchet used in the movie. I guess it doesn't really suit Ironhide that well, but I think this one, it does look a lot nicer in silver. This one's actually modeled off of some random Ironhide scene. I think he's with Ratchet actually. And so this is actually Ironhide's gun, I believe. I could be wrong, let me know if I am, but I believe that's what this one is, while these twin guns are for Ratchet, really. As far as accessories, that's it for VooDoo toys. I don't know if they're going to have more for Ironhide, but right now, you know, the official one has this weird sled battle platform, the jetpack, the effects, like the fire effects for the jetpack, the sensor, and a bunch of different hand accessories, one of which, where'd that one go? Alright, well, one of these pieces on here are gone too. But, and then also has this missile launcher here, which is in 2 pieces. So accessories wise, official blows out VooDoo. Alright, so getting on to the alt mode comparison. This time we have VooDoo Toy Salus, because I didn't feel like transferring their Animus Stealth. And we have, obviously, official Ironhide on the left here. So, by and large, these guys are pretty identical in alt mode in terms of look and, like, I guess, details, and I guess overall accuracy of the characters. They both look like vanettes. They both have slightly different takes. Some curvatures on the front and the roof are slightly different, but by and large pretty much the same. The real differences here are going to be, I think, 3 different things. So the first being that this guy is fully painted, which we talked about before, while this is only painted in the areas it's needed to be painted to match the white plastic. And this really benefits just because it makes it look more like an actual car with the glossy finish. If they were to paint this or have a more glossy plastic finish, I think they'd be pretty much on par in terms of overall look. The second thing is the undercarriage. A lot of people didn't like how this kind of piece stuck out underneath here. Official Ironhide does have a little something, but it's very minor. So another win for alt mode for Official Ironhide. The third thing for me is really the choice of windows here. So these windows are translucent blue, which I personally don't like. I just don't get why. I mean, people say because they were colored blue in the cartoon, and I'm like, well, that's not realistic. Who has blue windshields? At least a lot of cars do have tinted windows, even if it's not the front windshield, which I believe is illegal. But yeah, I mean, that just I just don't like that personally, and I also don't like the fact that there's no window pane back here, which again I know is an homage to the G1 toy, but it just doesn't look right. I mean, Masterpiece is supposed to have very accurate alt modes, and this is just not accurate at all. So those are my big three things. The overall look is pretty much the same. They do both share similar paint apps around the different areas here. I think this is actually a translucent piece over top of some painted details. I'm not really sure. It looks translucent. They both have some level of, panel gaps and stuff like that. This one on mine, I can't really get it to close. And while this one's actually not gappy, it looks gappy because the edges aren't painted white, while these edges are molded in red or painted red to really minimize that look of that gap. Oh, and I guess the last thing is the fact that this required those filler pieces or filler kit, which was super annoying. I did a separate video on that. It does really help the look of the alt mode, but it does still distract from the eye. And I guess the very last thing would be the lack of side view mirrors here on the official, which again, they've always done that, and they've even included extra sprues for some of the most recent figures to plug in on your own. It's kind of weird that they don't have that. Oh, and I didn't mention this up here, this faux window, which is just painted a gray as opposed. I guess it might have a little bit of blue in it, but it doesn't really match here either. While this one is painted, it actually is translucent on their Ironhide, which I didn't bother transforming. Oh, here it is. That is actually clear, so it actually has a functional, quote-unquote functional or realistic sunroof there. One thing I wanted to show off is the ability to store in the MP-10 trailer, which they showed off in the pro images, and I showed off in my previous review of Ironhide. But there definitely is some interference going on. It's not terrible, like right now it's getting caught, but by and large he can go in without much interference. This guy is ever so slightly, I'm even hesitant to say it's a millimeter. Like, he will go in as well, but he definitely touches the top almost the entire way, and then the light bar obviously will keep him from going all the way in. So he's ever so slightly bigger in terms of height, while all the other dimensions are basically going to be the same. They're almost exactly the same length. I think maybe the official has, because the bumper, a millimeter on them. In terms of width, I think VooDoo might have a millimeter on the official, a little bit bigger. So again, very great representations, both very accurate. I don't really mind the whole trailer thing, just because of the fact that I don't display my MP figures in the trailer, so it doesn't really bother me. But if it bothers you, at least now you know. I guess the big final thought for me is that it really depends on which one you think looks better. For me, I'm always going to display my MPs in their robot mode, with the exception of Dinobots. And I just really don't like so many things about this robot mode that I just can't give them the win over VooDoo toys in terms of just pure looks in the robot mode. The transformation, they're both different. They both do really interesting things. They both give out trade-off some things as well. So it really depends again on your aesthetic or what your feel is. Neither of them feel perfect, and they both have some issues, like some clearance issues on both. But I think they're both pretty innovative, which I like. They're both pretty fun to do. As far as like the overall value, again, that's up to you. This guy definitely, the official definitely comes with a ton more stuff, like all those accessories, and he does get a full paint job, which is really nice. And I think it had like $90 retail in the US, somewhere in that ballpark. While I think VooDoo retails for like 120-ish or something like that, which is a big $30 jump, given that they're basically the same size. This guy has a ton more accessories and more paint. Then again, it is an official figure, so you're kind of expect an official figure like coming from a huge company to have that ability to scale and afford to be able to do that and have the resources to be able to keep the cost down. So yeah, for me, I'm gonna keep VooDoo toys as my display for Ironhide and Ratchet in robot mode, and I'll figure out something to do with these guys. I'm a mass-based collector, so I'm gonna get these guys regardless. I just need to figure out what I want to do with them. Alright, so hopefully this detailed review was helpful to anybody who is interested in finding out more about how these two versions of these characters or vanettes are going to stack up to each other. If it helped you in any way, shape, or form to make a decision one way or another, I'd appreciate a like, share, and subscribe, or at least one of those. That'd be great. If you have any questions or comments that I may have missed in the review, go ahead and leave them in the comment section below, and I'll try to answer that. And if you want to pick up either of these, whether it's going to be the official or the VooDoo toys in Ironhide or Ratchet, go ahead and click on the Toy Dojo link in the description below. Alright, that's it for today, everyone. Hope you have a good one.